are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue. It is Thursday, April 20th, and we have another episode of The Issue here for you today. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, and Amazon Prime Video if you're looking to watch it, or you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. But it is a huge week, especially to be an NFL fan. The draft is 1 week away. It is mock draft week here on the show, so we'll have that in the second segment for you. It is going to be absolutely loaded. Tons of content, tons of predictions. Really fired up about this one.
Very excited, very excited. To clarify, and we will clarify again, I'll remind you a couple times, the mock draft is what I would do if I was the GM of each individual team as I go down the line. No trades, because then that would be more like speculating on what will happen, not what I think I would personally do to better the franchise, which is, I think, why you came here. You know? Like you care about the opinions that I give. I could just read you headlines if you want. I could read you the Fox Sports, mock draft if that's what you really want, but nobody really wants that. So it's going to be my take on what I would do in the draft.
It's going to be a very good show. I know we've been waiting a while. We wanted to get as close to the draft as we possibly could to be able to release the mock draft, kind of get all the latest stuff. If anybody was going to trade picks in the free agency right there, we wanted to be able to cover it up as far as we could right before that starts. But as a show today, it's going to be a really good one. Jalen Hurts got paid. We're going to talk about that one first with Tim's rant, and then we're going to have hits and misses to finish out the first segment, as we normally do. In the second segment, that's where you're going to find the mock draft. It's going to be pretty big. We're going to go through the first 10 picks pretty thoroughly, and then run through the rest, kind of hit the big ones as we go through, I guess, 11 to 32.
Yeah.
And then in the third segment there, we will have a discussion on Daniel Jones, just kind of what we think about him, what that division looks like, and some competition that he could be facing there.
So you mentioned Jalen Hurts getting the 5 years, $255 million, 179 of it guaranteed, right? So you start thinking, what does that mean for Lamar? What does that say about Lamar? We'll get to that later, but let's start with that contract, right? So you remember when Mahomes got paid, everyone was like, oh my God, that is just a crazy amount. How are the Chiefs going to be able to field a team? That's a wild amount of money. But oddly enough, as this cap hit goes up more and more, they seem to win more and more because it's a contract extension, right? It doesn't kick in for a couple years. You got 2-3 years to kind of reset how you do contracts, maybe front load some other contracts. That way when Mahomes' contract, which is more backloaded, kicks in, you'll be just fine. You'll still have the players. The contracts will work out, right? The rest of the market, though, also goes up when you backload a contract and wait a little bit, right? Mahomes signed, 3 years ago? He's said to make like $50 million a year 3 years ago, which was a lot of money. Now it's like, that's about right. The market's about $45 to $50 million for a top-end quarterback. And it's only going to continue to go up. They're only going to get more and more of a deal. I mean, this year he was the 6th highest paid quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, 6th highest paid. All right, so by the time it gets to the punitive part of the contract, it won't really be that punitive. It will be more of a steal. I get the same type of vibe from the Jalen Hurts contract. Now, I don't think he's Mahomes. I don't think he's a perennial MVP candidate, but could he be a top 7 to 8 quarterback almost every year? I do think so. And I think he's going to host the next, 5 NFC championship games, or at least 3 of the next 5. But he's not Mahomes. But he's also not in the AFC like Mahomes is. The Chiefs absolutely need Mahomes just to be able to get to the playoffs. Right? No, it's a good team, don't get me wrong. But since Tyreek Hill's gone, defense has taken a slight step back. Offensive line still in a little bit of a rebuild. They start playing a lot better last year. Right? But they need him just to get to the divisional round, the championship, what have you, right? But Jalen Hurts is in the NFC, specifically the NFC East. The Giants are paying great money to an average to below average starter in Daniel Jones. We'll get to him later. The Cowboys are paying great money for a slightly above average quarterback in Dak. And Washington's Washington. So by simply securing Jalen Hurts, I feel you almost secure a division title pretty much every year. He'll probably get you 3 to 4 out of the next 5 of that contract extension division titles, which means that they will play at least one home playoff game almost every year. At least one. So that's great on two fronts. Let's start with the football side. When Philly is rocking at home for a home playoff game, pretty much anything can happen. Dynamic quarterback, what we think is a really good coach, rowdy fans at home. If it's a night game, even more so. So anything can happen from a football standpoint, right? On the other front, the business front. If over the 5 years of that contract, Jalen gets you 4 home playoff games, even 3, it's worth it. That contract basically paid for right there, 3 to 4 home playoff games. Basically paid for. So that's all true. But remember, 2 things can be true at once. I do also think it's a slight overpay. I do. For a guy who, let's look at the facts here. I mean, let's look at all the quarterbacks who've lost Super Bowls in their first-ish appearance recently. Let's go the last 10 years. Right? Peyton Manning with the Broncos. I mean, my man was ancient, and it wasn't his first appearance. So I don't put a ton into that. Let's go Seattle with Russell Wilson. Lost the Super Bowl in his second appearance. Hasn't been back since. Why do you guys say he's washed now? Cam Newton, Carolina, never went back, not in the league anymore. Matt Ryan, Falcons, off a cliff. Tom Brady, clearly an outlier. Jared Goff, got paid, then traded. Now he's just kind of an average quarterback in the league. Jimmy G, hasn't been back. He's not even on the same team as he was when he went. And his team basically gave up on him. I mean, they drafted his replacement. Mahomes, Burrow, Hurts, seems a little too early to tell on all of them, but I think we know that they're not going to be busts in that sense and not go back. So I'm just saying, you have Cam, Russ, Matty Ice, Jared Goff, Jimmy G, or we have Mahomes, Burrow, Brady. Could he be closer to the Mahomes, Burrow, Brady group? Sure he could. Do I have a feeling he's going to be somewhere in the middle, closer to the other group of guys, maybe get back once? More like a Russell Wilson type career than a Patrick Mahomes type of career? I do think he's going to have more of that type of career than a, hey, I'm going to basically go to the Super Bowl almost every year. I mean, we thought that Russ was unreal. We thought it was bound to be a 15-year dynasty. He's been good. But he's never been close to winning at the clip that he was when he was going to the Super Bowls. So 2 things can be true at once. I do think they secure, at bare minimum, a really nice, solid team that can win you 9-10 games, which in that division, in that conference, is good enough to probably host a playoff game. Can they rip off a couple 11, 12-win seasons? Maybe get the number 1 or 2 seed and host 2 playoff games? Absolutely possible. Am I going to sit here and be like, oh, it's a slam dunk? Not really. We've seen this story before, and we've seen it go pretty poorly before, to be quite honest with you. So pump the brakes a little bit. Good for them. They lock up the quarterback of the future. They have cost certainty, which is certainly important. Now you know what you're paying them. You can go out and get guys with the remaining cap space. You know what you have to draft. You have your quarterback solved. It gives you an identity that you can build around, a cornerstone. But I don't think it means that they're a perennial Super Bowl team like they were this year. Not even close. Playoff games? Absolutely. And there's value in that. There's a ton of value in that. Big Ben, for example, won 2 in the first 4 or 5 years? Went back once, lost, that was it. Last decade and a half of his career, almost nothing, right? But there's still value in he won his division almost every year, won about eight playoff games after that, was consistently a really solid quarterback, won a ton of games, set a bunch of records. There's tons of value in that. I'm not saying there's not. But it's probably not going to be a Mahomes Brady type situation. I'm just saying.
I get that argument, but Jalen Hurts is not the kind of guy that I would rush to pay. He is, and purely just based on the fact that we have seen such a small sample size from him. Yeah. I mean, coming into the year last season, we didn't even have him in our top 10. I don't even know if he was in our top 15 coming into the season. He obviously played his way into the top 10 for sure. That's not a debate. He's played his way into that. But let's also not forget, week 14, 15, we were comparing him to Gardner Minshew.
Not good. It wasn't good.
It looked really unstable. He did not look great in the first parts of the playoffs. Really depended on the running game. Team kind of carried him until he got to the Super Bowl, and he had a hell of a performance in the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to take anything away from that.
Yeah.
But because of the small sample size, this is not a guy that I would have rushed to the register to pay for. I would not have.
I would agree.
I would have kept that one in the shopping cart for a bit. Maybe sat back, thought for a little bit more time on how it's going to pan out, what the future could look like with it. But at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback in the league, I would say.
Yeah.
I just would have given it a little bit more time if I was Philadelphia. But, hey, good for Philly and good for Jalen, yeah?
I think it's a fair point.
All right, so let's transition over into hits and misses, kind of go over where we were right, where we were wrong on the week. Here we go.
All right, hit number one here. I've had my criticisms on Jalen Hurts. I said, maybe a little early, but I did say I'd sign him. I said I'd probably take him over Lamar right now. I think everything that he does, aside from running between the tackles, I love. Right, I wish he would do that a little bit less, take a little bit less hits. But the leadership is there. He's improving throwing the football. Was actually really, really accurate in the Super Bowl with an injured throwing shoulder. So yeah, I think Jalen's a top 10 quarterback right now at least. I take him over Lamar. And what does that say on Lamar Jackson? So rumor has it that he got 5 years, $255 million, 179 guaranteed. Rumor has it Lamar got offered 5 for $250 flat, 175 guaranteed. So almost the same contract. Lamar didn't take it, Jalen did. To me, that says a lot about judgment, character. Like, that's a really good contract.
Knowing when to jump in.
Put this to bed.
Yeah.
If you're Lamar. Are we going to really sit here and fight over $30 million? Now, I know that's more money than I'll ever see in my life. But when you're already making $250 of it, not to mention your $30 million from your first contract and your $50 extra million from endorsements, like, we're really talking about like $30-ish million? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Sign the damn deal. Sign the damn deal.
Yeah.
Or quit bitching. Like,
and they're both kind of on the same level, I would say. And if not, I would even put Jalen Hurts higher. So
I would take Jalen over Lamar 100% right now.
If you're a Lamar and you're getting a deal offered to you like that, you take it. You take it all day.
I could not agree more. I couldn't agree more. People are like, well, the MVP. Okay. Sick.
Well, the injuries.
Sick.
What
He's
about
eroded.
The injuries?
He has regressed in the 3 years since the MVP. Sorry, he has.
I'm sorry. Did I miss a Super Bowl run from Lamar? Or?
I did too. I must have.
Yeah.
Did I miss the 1-3 in playoff games?
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I miss the worst overall pass rating in playoff games? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Miss number one here. We don't do a ton of NBA, but I'm fairly an open Warriors fan. Like, I like the Warriors. I like how they built things, right? And this is true of all sports. I like teams that are like built really well, foundation-wise from the draft.
Yeah.
And they acquire stars to supplement, which they did, like Steph, Clay, Draymond, right? And then they acquire KD. Obviously, he's gone now, but they go out and acquire other players that they need. But they're down 0-2 to Sacramento, like the damn beam, unfortunately. And they're not very good defensively. Jordan Poole is a detriment to the team right now. Draymond might get suspended for stomping on a player, although I think it's a little bit iffy. Anyway, wrong on that. Thought that the Warriors would maybe repeat.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the video of the Draymond thing, and it didn't look great.
Well, it didn't look great, but the dude, you see the guy on the ground clearly grab Draymond's ankle, though, too.
Yes.
And Draymond made a good point. It's like, when you're grabbing somebody's ankle and, like, you go to lift up, there's only so far I can go, and, like, where's it going to go from there? Right back down.
True. I mean, he has a point, but, like, either way, it just doesn't look good. And especially when it's Draymond, who we know has a history. Like, dude, when you got a history like that, come on.
Yeah, that one's tough. Hit number two here. I flip back and forth a lot. My first and most frequent take on the Penguins this year was that I just don't think they're good enough in the bottom 2 to 3 lines. I don't think the goaltending was good enough. I thought they should clean house upstairs. Arguably Sullivan as well, although I do think they made the right decision in keeping him as of right now. But there's going to be a new GM, new CEO of operations, president of base or hockey operations, all that, right? There's going to be a new, head execs in the Pens suites, and it makes sense for me. I said that from the beginning. They probably should clean house, and they did.
I think it's a good decision. Ron Hextall was a horrific GM.
You don't hire a flyer as the Pens GM.
No, you don't, and I think you saw that this year. When you put Jeff Carter and you protect Jeff Carter over Jared McCann in the expansion draft, and then Jared McCann goes out, scores 40 goals, and has 30 assists, and racks up 70 points on the season.
Jared McCann's a great player.
That's usually how you missed. That's just one example. You could go on for an hour about this on where they went wrong upstairs this year. But But I'm glad they made the change. We saw it coming. We said that they're not going to be a team that can compete down the stretch or fight through any playoff matchup. So in a way, I'm upset because they didn't make the playoffs. But right. I'm also kind of relieved that I don't have to watch them get embarrassed and go and just get swept in the first round.
It would have been bad. It would have been very bad. Mr. Material, I had a moment where I thought C.J. Stroud could be the number one quarterback taken, the best pure passer in the draft. He had the size.
You did have a moment.
I kind of likened him to, Justin Herbert, right, who at Oregon was very mechanical, very in-the-pocket type of guy, deliver from the pocket, which Stroud has been as well over his collegiate career. But then both of them in their last game in college, where it was kind of like, hey, the only real way that we are going to be able to win this game, which is a do-or-die situation in your last college game, is for you to just let it rip, run, pass, get outside the pocket, move, do spectacular things that you haven't been able to do all year because we don't have a capable backup that's going to be able to lead us to this point. So all year we needed you to stand and deliver and stay safe, stay on the field. And then the last game they both kind of let it rip and they were both really good. But he scored lower than any quarterback prospect on like the S2 test or whatever, which measures how to react quickly, like mentally. It's like acuity and perception, speed, like all that type of stuff. Upstairs, and not good. The position moves quick. It's all about upstairs. Brady was never the most talented quarterback. Was always the most prepared and the sharpest upstairs. So not a good sign for C.J. Stroud at all.
No, it isn't. It isn't at all.
Hit number 3 here. Mike Nicastro came on this very show and said that Deonte Banks should be the Steelers' pick at 17, and it's just about all I've seen on like Twitter. Very much a Mike Tomlin player, physical DB that's going to come up, hit you. A little bit more on the lower end of the radar. Comes from the Maryland pipeline, which we know he loves. So it makes a ton of sense for me. Mike Tomlin player. You'll see later in the mock draft. Maybe we have him going. I don't know. Maybe they go O-line. But that's hit number 3. Mike Nicastro, a little honorary hit there for him.
Yeah, he called that one.
We'll see if it ends up working out in the draft too.
It may, but I do remember talking about the good old Maryland connection and Tomlin's son and everything going on there. And it is a very Mike Tomlin pick. Mike Tomlin likes his DBs to be physical. I mean, look at the Steelers' defense 08, 09. That's all you need.
After the World Series, missed number 3 here. After the World Series, I said the Fightin' Phils. They're going to be a handful next year, especially after they got Trey Turner. I figured they'd compete for first in that division, if not second, and be a really, really viable wild card team. There's a ton of time, I know that, but so far it's not good. And barring any major moves, I'm not sure how fixable it is because I think the rotation's really, really weak. I think the offense is very hit and miss without Harper. There's not a lot of consistency. The defense is pretty average. With other problems on the roster, average defense can be exposed a little bit. You can have an average defense. Like, for example, Jeter wasn't always the best defensive shortstop. When you're hitting .315, it really doesn't matter,
Right.
But they're not making up for it with consistency with rotation, so it's becoming a problem as well. So, Fightin' Phils.
Where you at?
Better pick it up. They're, 6-10 or 6-11 right now, so not good.
Baseball season as a whole makes me happy.
Yeah, I agree.
Getting the baseball weather back, too.
Feels great.
Really does. Guys, stick around, though. Second segment will be our mock draft. Tim's been waiting to give you guys this mock draft for 3, 4, 5-ish weeks now.
Been working on it for 3 weeks.
It's been in the making. It is coming to you next, so don't go anywhere.
This is The Issue, second segment. Welcome to The Issue NFL Mock Draft.
It's a good day.
Pleasure to have you in.
It is such a good day.
We're in surprisingly chilly Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here on this beautiful Thursday. 420 for those out there. Have fun. Be safe. All right?
Be safe.
Us, we're worried about football, unfortunately. Just kidding. So we have ourselves an entire first-round mock draft. Stipulation, we're including the Steelers' 32nd pick because there's usually 32 picks in the first round.
So we're going with what the industry standard usually is.
Thank you. Industry standard. That's a business marketing major right there. I'll tell you what. Round of applause for the business guy over here. That is the industry standard, as he says, right? Of course, for those who don't know, the Dolphins pick at 20 or 21 gets vacated due to the whole tampering with Tom Brady type thing with the owner and all that. Whatever. above my head. I don't care. I don't think it's a big deal for the Dolphins. But either way, there's only 31 actual picks in the first round. The Steelers have the first pick of the second round, number 32. So we're going to talk about that as well.
Absolutely.
Let's start with the top 10. We'll give in-depth, because most people really care about the top 10. We'll show you the rest of it, and we'll kind of talk through some of the big moves, like both the Steelers moves, and a couple other big moves. But let's start at number 1. Unfortunately, we can't play the music, or else we will get our asses copyrighted till we die. So
it happened last year, and we're not going to do that again. There's a couple of things that we're going to stay away from, but we're always going to play the Super Bowl one, so you can count on that. But yeah,
that's acceptable. We can take that one. But the draft one's not going to help.
No.
So we'll start with number 1. On the clock, the Carolina Panthers. I think they go ahead and take the obvious choice, Bryce Young, the quarterback from Alabama, at number 1. I think he's the most talented quarterback in the draft for a team that clearly needs a quarterback. They're like 24th in passing yards per game last season. And they've had, to be honest, a revolving door quarterbacks in the since Cam was like good.
I mean, because you had Cam, and they had Sam Darnold.
They had somebody in between. They had like Kyle Allen for a year.
That's right. And then they had a bridge guy for a couple years.
Teddy Bridgewater for a little bit.
But I mean, they've gone through 3 bridge quarterbacks
4 bridge guys. Go get your franchise quarterback. Bryce Young's clearly the most talented of the quarterbacks. He's the most pure passer. He's the most clever inside the pocket, which I think can make up for a lot of size. So he goes number 1 to the Panthers. Number 2, the Houston Texans on the clock. I went back and forth. Do they maybe take a defensive guy and look at, I don't even know, at number 12, maybe if you think Anthony Richardson would fall to 12, maybe they take one there. I think they just go ahead and make the safe pick and get C.J. Stroud. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that C.J. Stroud isn't going to be awful. I just think the ceiling's a little bit lower. But I think for a franchise who's been, even with Deshaun, in a little bit of a rocky state with quarterbacks. Yeah. I think they go get a very stable, grown-up adult in the room, C.J. Stroud. Even though he's a young guy, I think we can argue, or we can all agree, that he's very mature. He's a very pure passer, very NFL passing-ready quarterback. So I think Stroud's the pick at 2 for the Texans.
He also has the personality to kind of right the ship a little bit.
Yeah, I think so, too. To steady it out.
Very calming in the room, not going to cause drama, and just going to play his ass off for you.
I agree. Number 3, the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, also stipulation. We're not going to do trades here. I'm not going to sit here and try to work out trades.
You don't have a crystal ball with you that you're predicting?
No, I don't. Because nobody expected A.J. Brown to go to the Eagles, and the Eagles to trade that pick. So we could sit here and play the what-if game all day long. So anyway, the Cardinals at 3. I think Will Anderson is the pick, the edge rusher from Alabama. I think he's the best edge rusher in the draft right now. And I think from Arizona's standpoint, they need an edge guy. They could go get like a Jalen Carter up the middle, but I think an edge guy is more impactful right now. We know they're not going to draft a quarterback. I think an edge guy is more impactful right now for the Cardinals, so him at 3.
Well, it's what they just lost, too. They need somebody to fill the shoes of J.J., and I know J.J. wasn't doing much at the very end there.
Yeah, but
at the end of the day, he was a veteran in the room, and he was really good at what he did. Yeah, so you have to go get a really good talent at a super important position right now.
Also, they just got a defensive coach, so they're probably going to draft defense. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Number 4, Indianapolis Colts on the clock. They go ahead and take Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky. Again, in turmoil and turnover constantly at quarterback since Andrew Luck shockingly retired. And I do think Levis has the body type. He has the arm. A lot of people say mechanical. We heard that with Justin Herbert a lot too, and that worked out just fine. Now, I don't think he's quite Herbert as a prospect. But I think he's a really talented kid. He's really, really smart from all I've heard. Yeah. So that's a plus there. Already likes to wear blue. I think Will Levis inside, that arm's going to look even better. I'll take Will Levis at 4.
Yeah, I mean, I like him, but I have my concerns with him in Indianapolis because he doesn't have the system around him. He doesn't have really any pieces that are going to be there to prop him up as a rookie. I mean, good running game. But outside of that, you don't have a lot of weapons. I mean, it's tough. We talked about Will Levis a bunch a couple of weeks ago, and we both said it really, really matters for him. He's 100%. Not going to be the type of guy that can go in and change a locker room and put a team on his back his first year.
I agree. Number 5 here, the Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. They'll go ahead and stop the slide of Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia. We'll take him at 5. That's a total Pete Carroll pick.
Yeah.
He always finds the guy that kind of slips through the cracks a little bit, and not that just not that 5 is slipping through the cracks right at 5 overall, but he finds Sherman, who was too long, too lanky. Chancellor was too big for a safety. DK Metcalf slips to the second round, right? Jalen Carter, character issues. Doesn't matter. He'll go into Pete Carroll's system and he'll fit in just fine. He'll be a game wrecker in the middle. And in that division, by the way, you could use a big, strong, athletic guy on the line.
Super important.
They have a lot of really good offenses in that division, so it makes a ton of sense for Seattle at 5. 6 here, Detroit Lions. I'd go out and try to solve your DB issue. I mean, you let go of Jeff Okudah. He was a clear whiff. I would go get Christian Gonzalez, the DB out of Oregon. A lot of people think that he's the safest DB pick. Maybe not the home run best, but the safest pick. But so is Pat Surtain when compared to J.C. Horn.
Yeah.
And right now, Pat Surtain is a significantly better corner than J.C. Horn. So both are good, but Pat Surtain is a stud. J.C. Horn's more like big play, big risk. And so I don't think he's quite as consistent and quite as good of a corner. So I think Christian Gonzalez is very similar to like a Pat Surtain in that regard.
Yeah.
So I'll take him at 6 there to kind of solidify my DB position.
No, I like that.
Number 7, the Las Vegas Raiders are on the board. I think they go ahead there and take the J.C. Horn version of this draft, which is Devon Witherspoon, the DB from Illinois.
They need help in that secondary.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, so they have the edge rushers. They have Max Crosby. I think they re-signed Chandler Jones, I want to say. Either way, if not, they still have Max Crosby. So they're fine on the edge. Receivers are great. You have Jimmy G. Josh Jacobs is back. O-line is good. You could use some depth there, but I think the glaring need is the DBs in this on this team here. So Vegas goes and gets Witherspoon.
That's definitely what they need. I mean, that is just 100%. They're a pretty good team. I don't want to say that they're like great and can contend for anything special. I mean, they're in a great division and they by far have, I guess, the third or fourth best roster.
Maybe vie for a wild card. Maybe,
but like
really,
if they could get a good secondary and keep those and think about
in
division with a Mahomes, with a Herbert, like with a Russ, you're gonna have to have a guy to cover number 1.
100%, I agree. Number 8 here, I think the Falcons go get their left tackle for the future, Paris Johnson from Ohio State. Reminds me a lot of a prospect as Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
Because both are just insanely big, like look the part. Big, good feet, good hands, right? Are there some flaws outside of that? Yeah, but he's got all the making to be a franchise left tackle. Like I said, especially the size, the wingspan, the arm, power and drive that you see on tape. It really jumps out to me. And he's played in the Big Ten. That's a great offensive lineman conference. And the Falcons, if you're gonna, which we think they probably are, not tank, but or at least have another top 10 pick, right? The clear smart choice here is Paris Johnson. Again, built as a really sturdy NFL offensive tackle. So that to me is the pick at 8. Build the offensive line fortress for the hopeful incoming starter, young quarterback next year. Number 9, the Chicago Bears go get Tyree Wilson, the edge from Texas Tech. To be honest, I'm not crazy about him as a prospect, but I do think he is the best edge available. I think he's got a very, very high floor, but a low ceiling. I think he's going to be, at best, a 12-sack-a-year guy. But right now, the Chicago Bears will take any and all production they can get on the front. And I think he's the safest pick, which for a new GM, he could use safe picks that are going to be good, solid pros, which I think Tyree Wilson will be.
Supplement that defense. Absolutely.
So he'll be at 9. And finally, at number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles, their first of 2 picks are in the first round. They'll go get some offensive line depth. Lane Johnson's aging, Jason Kelsey's aging. You go get Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle for Northwestern. I project him more as a guard at the next level due to the wingspan. And then I think he works well in that system. Yeah. I think he could be more of a road grading guard, but really get out in the run game, which is exactly what Philly wants to do. And it makes sense from Philly's standpoint. You just paid Jalen Hurts, protect him, right? Protect him.
100%. And, they're a punch-you-in-the-mouth kind of offense. They're going to run the ball at you, and Jalen Hurts is even going to run the ball at you, which I don't particularly love, but at the end of the day, that's their style. That's the way they play. Yeah. And a big, really, really tough, strong offensive lineman that can fit in that Philadelphia system is going to be huge.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's just run 11 through 32 real quick, and then we'll kind of stop and talk about a couple of these here.
For the audience, yeah.
Yep, the audio-only audience. If you are watching, you can see the list up there, obviously. At number 11, the Titans go with Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State. 12 is Nolan Smith, the edge from Georgia. 13, the Jets will go get Michael Mayer, the tight end from Notre Dame. 14, the Patriots will go get Zay Flowers from Boston College, the wide receiver. 15, the Packers will go get tight end Dalton Kincaid from Utah. At 16, the Washington Commanders will go get Joey Porter Jr., the DB from Penn State. 17, the Lurs get Deontay Banks, safety, Maryland, just like Mike DeCastro, has in his mock as well. Talked me into it. At 18, the Detroit Lions go get Brian Branch, safety from Alabama. 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback from Florida, Anthony Richardson. A little bit of shock pick. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Seattle with Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC at 20. 21, Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, will go to the Chargers. 22, the Ravens get Kalijah Kancey from Pittsburgh, the D lineman. 23, the Vikings get Brian Breesy, D lineman from Clemson. The other defensive lineman from Clemson, Miles Murphy, will go the following pick to the Jags at 24. At 25, the Giants go Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU. They clearly need help there. 26, the Cowboys will go get Broderick Jones, the tackle from Georgia. They're aging tackles. That's going to make a ton of sense. Buffalo at 27, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back, Alabama. 28, the Bengals go get Cam Smith, the DB from South Carolina. B.J. Ojulari from LSU will go to the Saints at 29. Eagles get Derek Hall, the edge rusher from Auburn at 30. Kansas City, Andre Carter, the edge from Army at 31. Very Kansas City pick. 32, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Anton Harrison, the tackle from Oklahoma.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there.
Let's actually start at 32 with the Pittsburgh Steelers' second pick. Technically a second-round pick, but is actually 32, which would typically be a first-round pick.
So tackle, address the offensive line. You need to do it, right?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you need to do. I think the two glaring weaknesses are the secondary and the offensive line, and they've worked to improve the offensive line over the offseason with free agency. I don't think they're sold on Dan Moore at tackle. I don't think they are.
I
don't
can
think
go either way on.
I don't think it hurts to spend a draft pick on a guy who could be your franchise left tackle. If he doesn't, then Dan Moore is
good enough.
C to
He's
C
good
plus.
enough.
He's
He'll
good
hold
enough.
you over for a season.
100% good enough at C plus level player. So take a risk. Maybe this Anton Harrison can be your future left tackle.
Huge too, because you need to somehow find a way to clear holes for Najee a little bit and
100%.
seal up those edges so that he can
100%.
get going. And then it's going to help a quarterback like Kenny Pickett so much.
Couldn't agree more. Number 27, direct your attention there. Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back from Alabama. A lot of people don't have a first-round grade on him. I think he's close. I have him somewhere around 32 to 35th overall prospect, but I think the Bills need a running back right now. You could argue me into an offensive lineman, but I don't think the value with Anton Harrison at 27 makes a ton of sense for them. I think Jahmyr Gibbs makes a ton of sense, helps them immediately. Great pass-catching back, which I think fits into what they want to do. Because they already have a couple good backs there. So Nyheim Hines, Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Very explosive running back room. I think it makes a ton of sense for the Bills to go Jahmyr Gibbs.
I mean, I like it. They need something to take the pressure off solely Josh Allen.
I agree.
That is not the recipe to win.
Problem.
Well, that's not the recipe to go far in the playoffs. You can win a bunch of games and you can do really well in a regular season like that, but you can't go make a run in the playoffs.
I don't think you can
win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think if
There's no
Jahmyr Gibbs
chance.
can come in and be a B+ to an A- running back, that's a back you could win a Super Bowl with.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, number 21, the Los Angeles Chargers. Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas.
Yeah.
They already told Eckler, hey, go test the market. They're clearly not going to pay what he wants to be paid. But what better way to support Justin Herbert? So you already got him a left tackle.
Yeah.
The wide receiving crew is good enough. You can go add depth in the second, third round because there's plenty of them there.
Well, and you have cap room because you're not going to be paying Austin Eckler.
Right, so you can go get a Bijan Robinson, and then you can go get, I don't know, maybe you get depth on the defensive line, which they need because they can't stop the run, right?
Yeah.
But most of their team is pretty in stone. You could argue me into a DB, but I don't love a ton of value with any of the DBs left on the board at 21. I think they would be better. They would be a better football team tomorrow with Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas.
Yeah,
I
think so. This is kind of for the same reason as the Bills. You still need that running back. Austin Eckler did a great job, but I mean,
I think Bijan is a
you need somebody that's going to be cheaper.
He's a better NFL body.
You need somebody that's going to be cheaper,
100%.
Especially to win now
because you're going to
Justin Herbert.
You're going to pay Herbert probably next year,
and
or even this year,
and he's going to garner a lot of money too.
A lot of money, yeah. Number 20, the Seahawks. I think Jordan Addison there. A lot of people would think that that's fairly overdrafted. I think he is closer to 25 to 30 overall prospect. But with that being said, you look at what Seattle needs. So, I mean, they already had a pick earlier. We had them picking 5, Jalen Carter.
which
solves your defensive line.
That makes a ton of sense.
You already have the rookie Tariq Woolen on the back end at DB, so you don't really, and Jamal Adams comes back, Quandre Diggs. You don't really need a DB, but you can probably get that in the third, fourth round. Your offensive line is really, really solid. You maybe add depth there, but I think Jordan Addison complements DK Metcalf, who's a burner, big physical receiver, vertical presence, and then Tyler Lockett, a little more gadget style, a little bit more deep down the field type player. Jordan Addison fits in perfectly. He's more of a route runner, Cooper Kupp style player, crafty, really good at the top of the route. Seems to always be open for some reason, even though he's not the fastest or the strongest. So I think he fits well within their system. And Geno could use some help. Let's be real here. Geno needs help more than most quarterbacks. Most top end quarterbacks. Geno needs some help. So go get him some with Jordan Addison.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Number 19, the Bucs, a good Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, you got to explain this one.
Maybe a little bit of a shock, right? You have Baker for a year.
Sitting behind Baker.
Yeah, I'm not saying Baker's like a great mentor.
Let him learn how to talk to the media from Baker.
I'm not saying Baker's a great mentor.
Hey, Baker, take him out. Teach him a thing or two about
Could he just be good enough for Anthony Richardson to learn a little bit and just get reps, preseason reps, practice reps, couple packages here and there in the game? Because if so, he's already from that footprint. He went to Florida.
And I'm not
You're in Tampa. It's
I'm
right
not
there.
saying it's crazy either, though, because, you're going to need something when Baker's gone. He's going to be a 1-2 year quarterback.
Yeah, and they probably need to rebuild down there, which fits perfectly with Anthony Richardson's timeline. If he's not even going to start till not this coming year, but the year after, that gives you a year and a half to rebuild the roster, which you clearly need to do.
For sure. Unless their plan is to really tank this year with Baker and then just
maybe
try to go get a Jacob May next year.
Possible. Okay, 17, Deontay Banks, safety, Maryland. Total Tomlin move. Big physical athlete.
Yeah.
Going to come up, pop you in the mouth a little bit. Again, we talked about the Maryland pipeline. I'm not going to get tons in depth on that. If you want to go listen to the Mike DeCastro interview, he gets very in-depth about Deontay Banks. Really, really nice player. And I think he fits the Tomlin mold, which I've said, double down on what you're good at, go pay for what you're not. Tomlin's really good on defense, really good with safeties. Double down on that, go pay for an offensive lineman. I wouldn't waste a first round, like a technical, let's say a 17th overall pick on an offensive lineman.
No, yeah, I agree.
And finally, at number 12, the Houston Texans go get Nolan Smith. A lot of people would consider that a very decent reach. I don't think so if it's going to D'Amico Ryan. So he's more of like a linebacker edge type player, like a TJ Watt style, really speedy, a little more slender, can bend really well around the edge. I think it fits what D'Amico Ryans wants to do, right? I think he had Bosa in San Fran, had a bunch of athletic linebackers. That's what he hopefully wants in Houston. So I think it fits what my coach, if I'm the GM here picking, I think it fits what my coach does well on defense, and we want his side of the ball to at least be solved. Go get him a toy to play with. Nolan Smith can move him around a ton. He's super athletic. He can cover. I think it's exactly what D'Amico Ryans would want in a pick, so they take him at 12.
I like that. It's good.
There's the mock draft.
What a mock draft. I'll leave it up here for a second.
It's gonna be. We're gonna hit every pick. I'm just saying. It's gonna be 32 for 32.
Fair enough.
Could you imagine?
That would be insane.
I think we got like 2 right last year.
It was tough. Last year was a really bad one. But last year, I think we also did it more in a way of, like,
who we thought.
Well, we predicted like 4 trades last year too, which was just a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. I'm not even.
Stay away from that. If you're ever making a mock draft, don't predict trades. Don't do it.
Just keep it simple.
Either way, guys, if you want to go see the full list, send it, share it, do whatever. It is on our Instagram, which can be found in the link tree and on our website. And it was in the newsletter. So go check it out, theissuesports.com. Sign up for the newsletter there. It's right on the homepage. But we will be back in the third segment with a little discussion on Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, if you will.
Danny Dimes.
And kind of that whole situation in New York. So don't go anywhere. Let's go into the third segment, the issue on April 20th, Thursday. It's been a great episode so far. Mock draft, we just had that in the last segment, so if for some reason you just got to this segment, scroll back, you missed it.
Mock draft, dynamic.
Yeah.
It's a good word. I'm going to start using that word more. Absolutely dynamic mock draft. We're going to do it for things that aren't generally described as dynamic, right? Like, Running quarterbacks, dynamic.
Yeah.
Really good wide receivers, dynamic. Mock draft, also dynamic. We're gonna redefine that word in terms of sports media.
I like it. I like it. If you want to go check out that mock draft, though, like I said, Instagram, newsletter, Twitter, you can check it out everywhere. Just follow that link on the website. Also, go buy some merch. We are shipping out merch early May, so make sure you go and throw in your order for Bad Day to Be a Beer, Cut Returns, If It Flies, It Dies, some of the show shirts. They are all fantastic.
Like this design's clean as. Come on, man.
I like it on the black too. You can get this version of it.
You'll love it, yeah.
Pops
real nicely on the black.
Yeah, I mean, so why would you not want it? Go get that, theissuesports.com.
So,
but speaking of dynamic, somebody that is not dynamic in my eyes is Daniel Jones in the slightest.
well, we know that. So, yeah, like I'm thinking about the whole Jalen Hurts contract thing, right? We kind of talked a little bit about what it means for Lamar, but I'm like, it kind of makes sense, right? You got to think about scenario, right? So if I'm the Ravens and Lamar, right now is probably the 6th, 7th best quarterback in the AFC. I mean, you have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert, Burrow. I would take all of them over Lamar. I'd take Trevor Lawrence over Lamar probably, definitely. So that's 5 right there. I'd say probably he's in that next group, 6, maybe 7.
Yeah. In the conference, not in the league, in the conference.
Yeah, and just the AFC. So there's 6th in the AFC, right? So I'd have a tough time paying a ton of money for the 6th best quarterback in the entire conference. On the flip side, with Philly, Jalen Hurts, I can justify doing that because if Aaron goes over to the AFC, right, that Aaron would be my 6th if he goes to the Jets, and then probably Lamar. If Aaron goes over to the Jets, which I think he will, I think it's pretty much a done deal. Is Jalen Hurts the best quarterback right now in terms of the next 3 to 5 years in the NFC? I would argue yes. I mean, you go through, it's like Jared Goff, probably not. He's okay. He'll be okay for the next 3 to 5 years. He'll just be average like he's always been, which there's a place in the league for that 100%. Same thing with Kirk Cousins. Stafford's aging, so I think going the next 3 to 5 years.
I don't see Trey Lance being that guy.
I don't. Kyler, he's too inconsistent, too injury prone. I don't see him being a better quarterback. Dak is close, but I just don't get the dynamic legs with Dak. Danny Dimes is very average. Nobody in the NFC South. Even Derek Carr, who's okay. I think right now he'd be the number 2 or 3 quarterback in the entire conference going into this year. So my point is, in a situation like that, I'd be able to sleep at night knowing maybe I overpaid a little bit, but I overpaid for the best quarterback out of the 16 teams in my conference. I have the best quarterback in the entire conference going into the playoffs. Like, that feels pretty good. That's a good spot to be in. That's a position that Brady was in for years, no matter if he was the 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the seeding was. You knew he was going to be the best quarterback in any given game, which if that's the case, you have a chance, especially if it's at home, like if you win your division.
Yeah.
You've got a hell of a chance. And so I'm thinking, well, like off the top of my head, who would even be the top? Let's go with like 7 quarterbacks in the NFC. So I think Hurts is 1. Let's go just for this upcoming year. I think Hurts is 1. Stafford's healthy, so I'll give him the nod at 2.
Give me a Kirk Cousins 3.
See, I'd go Derek Carr 3.
Or Derek Carr 3. Maybe Dak Prescott 4. Kirk Cousins 5.
5. Then I'd probably go Goff at 6.
Goff 6.
Remember, Kyler's not going to play. I don't think anybody else in the NFC South. I don't think Justin
Maybe Geno
Fields.
Smith?
You could make the argument for Geno.
Geno at 7?
I think Geno or Danny at 7, the other one at 8. I think that's...
But the Giants are paying how much to Daniel Jones again this season?
I have people telling me that Danny Dimes is like top 15. Look, that's fine, but he's like the 7th or 8th best quarterback in the NFC, and it's the weaker conference. Like
much weaker, too.
And you're going to pay $45 million for that? Are you out of your mind? $40 million for the 8th best quarterback in the conference? Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Hey, no, you do. Brian Dable will fix him and make him even better than he already was last year. I'm not going to... Could he make him 3 touchdowns better next year? Sure. So he's at 25 total touchdowns? Holy shit, alert the church elders. Like, are we kidding? Like, I mean, come on, seriously. Like,
it's not like he lit the world on fire as he was.
Yeah, like alert the women and children, guys. 25 total touchdowns. Like I said, it's pretty decent. That's serviceable. I'd pay $30 million for that. 40? 42? I'll I'm up at night. I'm
That's steep.
turning. I'm tossing.
That's steep.
That
and
is
then
very steep.
You start leaving yourself with not enough money to build pieces around him, and then he gets even more exposed because he's by himself.
Well, you already see it. So Saquon said he's not going to report under the franchise tag. He wants a long-term deal. He's got all the leverage in the world. Because what they're going to be like, oh, you'll see you, Saquon. And then Danny Dimes turns around and hands off to who? Like, Daniel Jones is not good enough to win without these complementary pieces, so the franchise has to pay these complementary pieces.
But I don't think they see that. I think they have a super inflated view of Daniel Jones. I think the Giants fans in general do. I mean, we felt that on social media for the last 2 weeks now.
I feel like the owner does. I feel like deep down the coach and GM know. I feel like they do.
I mean, Dayball has to know. When you go from a guy like Josh Allen and you come over and you have to start coaching a dude like Daniel Jones.
He's got to know. He's got to know. In his heart of hearts.
I mean, they're looking at the same game we're looking at.
You can't tell me in your heart of hearts that Dayball's like, oh, no, he's right up there with him. Like, you can't tell me that. Because in pay, they are right up there, with each other. You can't tell me in his heart of hearts. He'd be like, yup, that's
baffling.
They're comparable quarterbacks. They're not even close. They're not even on the same planet.
No. But hey, he got paid. Congrats to Daniel Jones.
Just something I was thinking about lately. Just a little something I was thinking about.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for today, guys. Go check out the social medias. Go subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe on all the platforms you listen on. Send it to a friend. Give it a share. Buy a shirt.
I work hard on that.
Absolutely.
Please do send. Please do send to friends.
So, guys, we appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out, and that was The Issue.